Hello, and welcome all to the workshop Preparing for Graduate or Professional School. This is brought to you by the Kutztown University Career Development Center. Within this workshop, we are going to be talking about different tips and tricks for preparing for graduate school, what graduate school is like, and the application process. So first things first, what is graduate school? Graduate study is an in-depth study in a field or a discipline. So it's going to be a little bit different than undergraduate degree. It's going to be focusing a little bit more narrowly on a specific study and field. Students typically are evaluated for graduation by a research project or a thesis judged by a faculty committee. Classes are generally small and involvement with the faculty is direct and extensive. Students work independently to produce high-quality results which are measured by research publications and presentations reviewed by peers. Now, within graduate study, there are going to be different levels and fields of study. There is first graduate school, which is going to be your master's degree. So your master's of arts, master's of education, master's of science, master's of business administration. And then you can go on to a doctorate degree. So a PhD or an EDD. But then there's also professional school. So if you're going to law school, medical school, dental school, pharmacy, that type of study, you're going to be more in a professional school setting. So those are going to be specific levels of studies and specific degrees that you're going to be attaining. But they both work the same in the application process, in the timetable that you want to be following. So we're going to be talking about them rather interchangeably throughout this workshop. So here's some good reasons for going to graduate school. The reasons, if you're considering it, that maybe you want to press a little bit more forward if you're considering with these reasons. So do you need a degree for entrance to your career field? Or do you have a passionate interest in a subject area? Again, we were talking about how graduate study is going to be a bit more narrowed in focus on the subject that you're studying. So if you're very passionate about that subject and very interested in it, then this might be a good reason to continue on to graduate school. If you like to do research, you're going to be doing a lot of research in graduate school. If you find schoolwork enjoyable and fairly easy for you, again, you're going to be having another 2, 3, maybe even more years of schooling. So you have to make sure that you actually enjoy school. If you want to earn higher wages, or you want to ensure continued career advancement. These are all very good reasons for going to graduate school. But then here are some reasons not to go to graduate school. You might want to think about it a little bit more if these are the reasonings you're giving yourself in the application process to graduate school. If you're thinking about applying just to please somebody else, or you're not really sure about your career path, or you're avoiding the job search altogether, I would stop, I would pause, I would reevaluate your reasonings for wanting to go to graduate school, and try and figure out, especially your career path, especially your job search, I would try to figure that out a little bit more and figure out what it is that you actually want to do before you start picking out schools and applying to schools. Selecting a school. How do you go about doing that? Well, generally, it's probably going to be around the same method that you did when you selected your undergraduate program. You're going to want to look at the academics. So obviously, if you're applying for an MBA program, you want to make sure that that school actually has an MBA program. Or if that school's MBA program is top-notch, something that, is something that you think will get you a good footing in the job world. The people, you want to pay attention to the faculty, the students, administration, maybe get to know some of them, see if you think you can click with them and work well with them. Location can also be very important. Maybe location is of no consequence to you. Maybe you are able to move anywhere around the country, maybe even outside of the country, or maybe you're limited. Maybe, you had a few years that you were working before you decided to go to graduate school. Maybe that's your plan right now. Maybe by the time you do choose to go to graduate school, location is going to be very important to you, and you need to have something that is close to you, or maybe you need to be looking at an online program. The cost, we're going to go into a little bit of how to pay for graduate school, but up front, looking at the tuition, if you need housing, if you need financial assistance and financial aid, it's going to be a very important factor. And admissibility, how competitive is it? Do you need to take an admissions test? What are some other requirements that the school and the program have? And there's a few different sources of information if you aren't really sure about the school to select that you can reach out to and use as resources. Faculty. If you have a faculty member that you really connect with and you think can give you really great advice, well, they had to go to graduate school, right? So ask them if a graduate program is something that they would recommend to you, or if maybe they know a really great program, connect with them. Alumni and practicing professionals are also really great sources of information, especially if you have one of these as a mentor. Again, they can act just like the faculty in recommending a graduate program for you. Family and friends, of course, academic journals, U.S. News and World Report rankings. And then, of course, we have a graduate school fair every year at KU. Now, this one isn't going to be like our job fairs where you have to get dressed up or anything like that. You can come just as you are, just as if you're going to class. Go there on your way to class if you want to. And you can actually connect with representatives from various graduate school programs throughout the country. You can talk with them, ask some of your questions about the admissions process, what the school is like, what the program you were considering is like. So this is a really great way to actually talk to somebody from the school directly. And then, of course, online are going to be really great resources. Peterson's Education Center is amazing. I am always recommending it to students. It's a really great way to filter by your preferences as to the school that you want to go to. So if you want to have an online program, if you want to have something that is in a specific location or costs a specific amount of money or is in a rural area or is a women's college or anything like that, this is a really great resource, again, because it filters. So I think it's a really great visual way to kind of narrow down all of the filters that you need. Gradschools.com, also a really great way to filter and get that information. And again, the U.S. News and World Report is going to give you a ranking on the schools and their programs. Okay, so paying for graduate school. So up front, I'm going to be honest with you, graduate school is going to be more expensive than undergraduate school. It's just the way it is. So different ways that you can go about paying for it. You have your traditional financial aid, so grants and loans. It's a little bit harder to get grants for graduate school than it was for undergraduate school. So you're going to really have to search for them. But scholarships and fellowships are out there, so definitely do your research. They could be also program specific or demographic specific, same as kind of undergraduate was, but again, it's a little bit harder, so you're going to have to do a lot more research. But things that I definitely recommend trying to find are going to be graduate assistantships and tuition waivers. Typically, a graduate assistantship will give you a tuition waiver. So what you're going to be doing with that is you're going to be working for the university in some way. So you could be working for the Career Development Center, or you could be working for another office on campus, or maybe you're working for a program directly. And then what they'll do is they will waive your tuition, and most likely they will also give you a little bit of a stipend that you can live off of if you need to, rent an apartment in the location by the school or anything like that. So these are really awesome ways to help pay for graduate school. So then what is the application process for graduate school like? First, you want to complete the online applications. They are going to have fees, again, very similar to undergraduate, but the application might be a little bit more in depth. You are going to have letters of recommendation. Typically, it's 3, it could be more, it could be less, but you do want to start that early, and we'll get into kind of the timetable for the application process in later slides. But one thing to keep in mind now is that you want to figure out who you want to ask for your letters of recommendation, and you want to do that a bit early on. You're going to have to write a personal statement or an essay. Sometimes undergraduate schools require this, but definitely a graduate program is going to require this. You may have to take the appropriate admissions tests. Not all programs require it. I think some programs are kind of shying away from this standardized testing, but there are still programs that are still doing it. So think your GREs, GMATs, those types of things. If you're going into professional school, most likely you're going to have to take an admissions test. And then if you need to submit any other documents. So it's important to be looking at deadlines, but also to be looking at the requirements of the application, because each application is going to be different. This is kind of just like a generalized view of what the application process is going to be like. All right, so now you're actually filling out the application. What do you need to remember? Obviously, complete the entire application and pay the fees, but also be aware of deadlines. Don't wait until the last minute, or maybe don't wait until the second round of admissions or the second round of applications. Be the early bird applicant. You want them to see your name first, just in case maybe they fill up the program before they expected to. So I would highly advise applying as early as you can. And then don't admit any information. If they require something, put it in there. If you don't supply the information that they ask for, there's a strong possibility they won't even look at your application. And apply to several different schools and a few safe schools. So again, just as you did for undergraduate, make sure that you do apply to your dream school. Don't think that you can apply to your dream school, but have several different schools that you might be confident that you're going to get into. They might not be your number one, but they're just in case. And then always remember, if your GPA is below average, you're not that proud of it, you're not that confident in it, there's other ways that you can work on your application to maybe bring it up a notch. So work to enhance your personal statement. Okay, so talk about how you applied your internship experiences to this and how you're going to apply it to the program. Or maybe the program doesn't necessarily require an admissions test, but it is something that you can work on a score with and really have that be high. That's something that you can have your application look really great with, despite your maybe below average GPA. Or maybe consider taking a few years, applying to a few different jobs and getting experience in your target field. Then when you go back to your application for graduate school, they're going to see that you've already been a working professional. And again, that's going to speak very highly of you. And again, applying early is always best. All right, so the admissions test. If you do need to take an admissions test, this is what you're going to be looking at. So there are the GRE, which is more of the general admissions test. A lot of programs, if they do require it, will most likely have the GRE, but there are also more specialized tests that you will have to take. Again, if you're going for professional school, more likely than not, you're going to be taking more of a specialized admissions test. Again, be aware of deadlines and plan accordingly. It takes some time for the admissions test to get your results back and then to send the results to the school. So prepare yourself. Make sure you are taking the admissions test as early as you can so that you can get the scores back to the school as early as you can. And prepare. Study. Study, study, study. Don't go into it thinking you don't have to take the time to study. These tests are money. They do cost a good amount of money. So you don't want to have to keep retaking them. You can retake them if you need to, but again, it's better to just take the test the first time, pay for it the first time, instead of repeating the test over and over and spending a good amount of money on them. You can take a free practice test on Kaplan for the GRE. It's offered each semester, so definitely go online and look to see when they are offering it and take those practice tests if you need to. All right, the letters of recommendation. Again, request them early. Be aware of deadlines. These are people that you're asking, people who have lives and are working. So you definitely want to make sure that you're asking them in enough time and giving them enough time to actually write out the letter. Give them an unofficial transcript, your resume, a list of courses or activities that you had with the professor or the boss or whomever it is that you're asking. They want to have more of a well-rounded portrait of you rather than maybe just knowing you within a class or knowing you within an internship. So it would be a good idea to give them your transcript and your resume so they can see all the other things that you have done. Solicit one more letter than necessary. I highly recommend this. I have my own personal story of asking 4 people instead of just the 3 people that was needed, because the 4th one wound up not supplying me a letter in time. So I was very happy that I asked one more than necessary because I got the correct amount of letters in by the time they needed to be in. And the letter writer should know you well enough to write in a detailed and persuasive manner. So again, ask people who know you very well, provide them with other aspects of you, so your resume, your transcript. But if it's a professor that you only had for maybe one class, you really weren't participating in class all that much, even with your resume and your transcript, they may not know you that well. So again, ask people who know you well enough to actually write about you. Make sure that they are able to say wonderful things about you and that they're reliable enough to write and post your recommendation in a timely manner. So I gave my own little anecdote there about somebody who didn't get it in on time. So that's another good reason why you want to make sure that you have one more person than is necessary. All right, so the personal statement and essay. You want to write, review, edit, and then rewrite your personal statement or essay as many times as you need to. It's going to demonstrate your unique qualifications and commitment to your chosen field by highlighting experiences, people, and events that have inspired you. Your statement should tell a story. So it's going to be talking about why you're a good fit for the program and all of the different ways and all the different experiences that have made you a good fit. And if you need to utilize the Writing Center and the Career Development Center review service, definitely do so. You want to have as many eyes on this personal statement as you can to make it the best statement that you can. And unless you have been given specific topics or prompts, your personal statement or essay should answer the following questions. Why are you applying for this program or position? How have your experiences and academic work prepared you for this program or position? And how does this program or position fit into your long-term goals? Other requirements of the application process. You may have to schedule an interview if required, so definitely make sure you are practicing your interviewing skills. Participate in Mock Interview Mania to practice. You can also do a practice interview online on KUCN, but definitely make sure that you are practicing those interviewing skills. You may have an interview with the program director, or it might be a group interview with several different candidates, or a group interview with several different faculty members of the program. So make sure you are practicing. You may also have to complete and submit requested documents. A portfolio, documentation of observation hours, writing samples. Dependent upon the program, you may also have to submit these documents. So a timeline. You need to start deciding when you want to actually attend graduate school or professional school. Do you want to attend immediately? Maybe wait a year or two, wait more than a year. 20 to 30% of new graduates do attend immediately, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to or you don't have to. If you do decide that you want to, keep in mind that some programs do want to see that you have professional experience already. So maybe you need to figure out an internship opportunity, or maybe you need to get summer employment to show that you do have professional experience. So keep those things in mind. And what are the advantages or disadvantages of attending right away or waiting? And when does your program actually begin? Here's a generalized timetable for when you want to start researching graduate schools and graduate programs. You want to begin browsing around your junior year or some of the summer of your junior year. So start browsing for different schools, discussing with faculty members. Your senior year, around September and October, you want to take the required tests, start writing your personal statement, researching financial aid opportunities, requesting recommendations. Again, you want to start early. Then in November and December is when you want to start requesting your official transcripts, start finalizing your personal statement, completing the applications, applying for those assistantships and fellowships. And then in January and March, you're going to start contacting the schools about visiting and scheduling an interview. More likely than not, they're going to be contacting you, but generally it's going to be between January and March. And then in April is typically when they give you your acceptance or your rejection or other admissions decisions. So what are those admissions decisions? Usually it's made by a committee based upon your grades, your test scores, letters of recommendation, the other requirements, and the decision can be either admitted, conditionally admitted, or not admitted and rejected. If you are not admitted, maybe apply to more schools, more safe schools. Maybe apply a bit earlier. Maybe consider taking a course as a non-matriculated student. Maybe they saw on your application and on your transcript that there was a specific course that you haven't taken yet. Or maybe taking that course will benefit your application. Maybe visit the school in person to actually wow them. Talk to them about how you are a great fit for the program. Don't be overwhelming to them, but maybe if they meet you in person, they'll think differently about your application. Or maybe you want to consider gaining an experience and applying again in a year or two. Again, maybe complete an internship, get that related work or volunteer experience, and again, complete any additional undergraduate courses that you hadn't before you graduated. All right, thank you everyone for listening to the workshop presented by the Kutztown University Career Development Center. We are located at 113 Stratton Administration Center. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can always give us a call at 610-683-4067 and visit us online at www.kutztown.edu/career-center. And then you can always drop us an email as well at careerhelp@kutztown.edu. Thanks.